Good morning. It's 9 a.m. and I will call to order the July 1st meeting of the Saline County Board of Commissioners. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Grievous?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Weiss?
Here.
Commissioner Hay?
Here.
If you're able to stand, please do so and join me in the flag salute, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we will move into our citizens input portion of the meeting where members of the public may speak on county government, usually limited to 3 minutes and pertaining to items that will not be discussed on today's agenda. Are there any members of the public who would wish to speak?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Christina Small, Salina Area United Way, 328 North Ohio. I'm here today. We received a letter that in the proposed budget we're not getting any funding, and so I just wanted to come and give my final battle cry, I guess. So we're here on behalf of the Early Child Care Initiative Fund, or ECIF, which was created to help supplement wages to get early educators to a living wage in the child care community. Unfortunately, child care centers are operating in the red and simply can't raise wages on their own. Of the 7 centers currently supported by ECF funds, the average loss last fiscal year was over $67,000 per center. Individually, centers operated at deficits as high as $214,000. To break even, they would need to raise rates by an average of $1,300 per week, an impossible ask, especially when one center serves a population of 80% of their children live below the federal poverty limit. Despite these financial hardships, ECIF is making a real difference. Centers report increased staff retention, reduced reliance on second jobs, and a noticeable improvement in the quality of applicants. These are the people who care for our children every day. This fund gives them a chance to stay in that field. But if we're unable to sustain these grants, we risk losing up to 591 child care slots in Saline County, nearly half of our total desired capacity for the county. That doesn't just affect these families. It affects our workforce, our local economy, and the revenues coming into both city and county budgets. We initially requested $40,000 to support this effort. We understand you're facing tough budget decisions, and we don't take that request lightly. If $40,000 isn't feasible, we simply ask for whatever level of support the county can provide to help protect access to child care for working families across our county. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Good morning.
Hello again. Ashley Jarvis, resident 415 Wynn Road here in Salina, Saline County. We visited a number of weeks ago about the proposed demolition of the jail, and we'd asked at that time for the commission to consider postponing that decision to allow time for us to garner support for a coalition to instead refurbish the facility. Since then, the next day, as you know, Roger, we toured the facility to get eyes on, as was recommended by many of you, to get a real feel for the scope of the work that would be needed. And we did so and prayed a lot, and also made some phone calls to other individuals who know a lot more about the actual process than what I do. So with that in mind, and again, I'll try to make this brief. I wasn't planning on it being in the public's section, but we are fully aware of the pain that jail has presented as far as in your butts to figure out what to do with it. As walking through, we do acknowledge that it does need a new roof, HVAC, boiler, kitchen sprinkler system, etc. All of that is not a surprise. I do feel like there's a discrepancy on the scope of the plumbing that would be required. Everything that we've been told as far as what has currently been considered for the use of that facility would entail revamping all of the existing plumbing, whereas if it's not going to be a correctional facility, you don't need toilets, sinks, etc. in every single cell. The scope of the plumbing would be centralized plumbing facilities or shower facilities and bathrooms and stuff, because again, there's a higher level of freedom with the residents that would be in there if it's a transitional resource center, as we presented previously. And so the scope of the plumbing repairs needed would be far less. You'd cap everything existing and you'd go with all new. So again, just that would be the specifics there. This jail, why is it ideal? It's already built. It's secure. It's structurally sound. It's already built to be segregated for different types of transitioning. You don't want to mix populations when you're trying to be a transitional facility for jail, prison, and coming into recovery or out of rehab. Also, the location is ideal for this, and in conjunction with all of the resources that are currently available to these residents, this location is perfect. One of the questions we ran into is whether a jail that is renovated is the right place for a program like this. And I will tell you that psychological studies have shown that familiar space reduces anxiety post-release. It's actually a comfort to people that are being released to be in a familiar setting. It's also, many would prefer a softened jail over halfway house if it's reimagined, if it's softened, if it's made more humane, if its actual efforts are in to renovate it. So the way you see the jail today is not the way that it would be presented. This particular property would facilitate on-site partner reps for intake, case planning. We would have a structured 2-week onboarding per resident as part of the program that we've researched with the Kansas City Transitional Centers, which Amanda will talk a little bit on the percentages of recidivism and how effective it's been in Missouri as well as Colorado in reducing the recidivism rate. We would continue on like the MRT program that Sergeant Tina Miller at the current jail has and has had great success with, by the way. But one of the issues is then post-release they go into the Wild West, so to speak, which is a very laxed, sober living environment rather than a structured transitional resource center. The Kansas Department of Corrections mentorship program that I am a mentor with is established to partner mentors with mentees who are currently incarcerated for the last 12 months of their term, regardless of how long they've been in prison. That partnership then would continue within the Transitional Resource Center. They'd meet a year before release, and then they'd continue that into the Transition Center. And obviously, we'd coordinate with the existing services that are already available here and have on-site resources. So, a couple of stats is 2 out of 3 released or rearrested within 3 years. Annie, I'm not telling you anything that's new to you. That's 66% will be rearrested in 3 years' time, and a staggering 76% will actually go back to jail within 5 years, 3 out of 4. That's what we currently provide for the people who are released in our community. They are already here, and we already have this giant gap on this rope bridge where we've got sober living environments out in the middle, but there's this enormous gap between release and getting there. Generally, that's exactly where they fall through, and this would bridge that gap. 20% of our population has spent a day in jail, in that jail. If you think about it, the opportunity that presents for us to turn that into a rehabilitation center, a place for redemption. Every single resident, statistically, has a loved one who has spent time in that jail. And so, again, every time driving by and seeing that, it's a big opportunity. Again, all we ask is that you postpone the decision to demo so that we can get the people together to provide an actual proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Amanda Jarvis, Saline County. And I am also going to be talking a little bit about the Transitional Resource Center, more in terms of like what is the impact in our community and kind of what are some of the larger statistics. So first of all, I did reference the final report for the Facilities Management Plan that was presented in 2023. The old jail is one of the considered facilities, and there was kind of a 3-step proposal that the consultant had recommended. One, find out if it is going to be a different correctional facility. You guys went through that hoop and figured out that that was not going to be cost effective. Step 2 was going to be a public request for proposal to find out if there's other facilities that might be able to rent it, lease it out, and use it for something different. My understanding is that the decision was made to not go out for public RFP, but instead have some targeted conversations with some homeless shelter providers to find out if it was the right facility. Turns out that was not. And then we are currently at step number 3, which is to have proposals for demolition. So we're asking to kind of back up a little bit and kind of consider that second option. I obviously wasn't at the meeting when it was decided to kind of skip over that step and go to step number 3, but that's the request. So some of the larger talking points and considerations, and kind of why we're even considering this in the first place. As we know, the local unemployment rate is 3.4%, with over 2,100 jobs available and open currently, based off of a report that I got yesterday from the Chamber of Commerce, which, if we break down the math, basically if we employ all of the people who are currently unemployed, we still have open job vacancies. So we need to figure out how to get some of those unemployable individuals employable so that we can actually fill the jobs that we have available today in our current employer base. As far as the incarceration and why a transition center might make sense, within 50 miles, there's approximately 4,000 incarcerated individuals being housed in the system currently. They're going to release eventually, and we need a program to transition them from in crisis mode, trying to figure out what this life thing is, all the way into employable, great additions to a workforce. So there's workforce gaps. Workforce integration proves as a deterrent to recidivism. This facility would also create some jobs as far as like having some of that, mid-level. I'm at 3 minutes already? Whoa. Okay, then I'll talk really fast. Okay. Increased local spending. We did a little simulation to figure out how it could be sustainable. And then as far as recidivism, the math says that for each 10% reduction of recidivism, it could save $2.7 million annually to the community. And so homelessness could be upwards of 300,000 based off of the population that we have here. And then healthcare and all of the EMS services is also similarly about $250,000, $300,000 of savings. So based off of the economics, we're asking to delay to see if this is a feasible option.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, I just got one question for him. You say that you'd like to have us delay this. Have you got a timeline? I mean, what's your timeline? Do you have somebody that would step up and do this, or how long do you want us to delay our decision on this?
I believe we discussed and we were talking about 90 days, but we would also take as much as you would give us. So to create an actual proposal and be able to meet the requirements of an RFP.
Okay. I just want to be clear. Neither one of us want to be up here. Neither one of us want to be doing this. When I woke up and rolled over to her and said, hey, I had a dream and we're supposed to transition this thing and all the things, and so we don't know. But we do know that the conversations we've had, the help is there, the money is in this town, they care enough about what this community does that we can put a coalition together. And we're not familiar with how this usually plays out as far as how do you get a task force together to do this? Is there a way that you usually, if the county says, yes, we want to put a bid out, then we're happy to try to start a coalition to do this. But if there's a set way you do it, then let us know, and that's the rules we'll follow.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to comment because it's like one of the things that really gets me is that it's like I know in the walkthrough that we was at, and it's like it was brought up that we was going through this demolition visit today, and you talked about how you thought that you'd be able to maybe find the funding in this few weeks, because you knew that we really had to make a decision today on this. And we do have the right, I mean, we can postpone it, but on the flip side of it is that we've got already looking down the future, and one of the main things is that we have a deadline date that we've already put out for these bids, that we need it done by this date. And so that's the other big issue that we're looking at, that is like if they've all bid and they can get it done by this date and cleaned up and out of there, where we can look at the future to do something else with that property. That's the other scary thing about putting it off for even at 30, 60, 90 days, is that it's like that puts all of that way past the, depending on the weather, is I could really put it way out there.
Sure.
So, but
Yeah,
I do appreciate your thoughts and your willingness to move forward with that project is just mind-boggling. Yes, thank you.
Roger, to clarify, I wasn't aware that today was a firm deadline until we got a follow-up email from Hannah that there was going to be a decision made today. So our conversations were more, again, finding out if there was interested in playing a role. Everything we've heard so far is yes. We haven't had a single, not one person say that this need is not there for the Transitional Resource Center. I think the biggest question for you is this the building for it? And that piece, I'm not the expert at going and figuring out exactly what that looks like. None of that was going to happen in 2 weeks, right? So everything we did was put feelers out, everything we got back. If you can get them to delay, then we're down to get around a table and have a conversation on how this works and how we can do it.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
You bet. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
Norman Manor, Saline, Kansas. We've got another water issue at Headville and I-70. That's 3 in one area. So there's that one at the Headville area. There's that one at West Pleasant Hill Road, the Water District. That's 3 of them. We forget who we are and what we are. We take things for granted. Budget cuts are county, state, and federal wide, all departments. I learned that at the KWBT meeting in Russell Thursday. You ought to have been there. That was a go-around. The chairman had to shut me down. I wonder why. We need a speed bump at West Pleasant Hill Road. This has been going on for 3 or 4 weeks now, and he does it right at dusk. Sometimes 1, maybe 2 motorcycles. They don't have any lights on. There are people out there walking around at dark. There's a young woman walking her dog. There's a young woman in a baby carriage pushing her baby. There are other young people out there. Somebody's going to get hurt. I let it set. I used to do it too, but so it's budget cuts, and it's going to take effect over the whole country.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? This time we'll move into our.
Oh, well,
Oh, excuse
sorry, I
me.
was just waiting on everyone. And
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me.
Hi, my name is Leslie Manning, and I am here as the county coordinator for the Saline County Farm Bureau. The Saline County Farm Bureau Association is a membership of farmers and ranchers with the goal of providing agriculture education, advocating for agriculture-friendly policies, and providing service. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. One of the service projects that the Saline County Farm Bureau has contributed towards is collecting used tires to be recycled and reused. And we have hosted a used free tire collection every other year since 2018. The project involves the Saline County Farm Bureau setting up a collection site at the Saline County Road and Bridge Department Yard on Airport Road on a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and is promoted to the Saline County residents. This year, we are looking at a Saturday the first 2 weeks of September. Saline County residents bring their tires to the collection site where tires are collected by Champlin Tire. This project is partly due to Darren Fischel and the Saline County Road and Bridge crew members who helped during the event using county equipment to pile and load the tires that are collected. The county's partnership with the Saline County Farm Bureau has been very much appreciated and helped towards ensuring that used tires in our county are properly disposed of. This year, the Earl Bain Foundation generously awarded this project $15,000. I'm asking the Saline County Commissioners to consider contributing $10,000 towards this project. In 2023, the Saline County Farm Bureau hosted a free tire collection, collecting over 95 tons of tires. The bid in 2023 from Champlin Tire was $205 per ton, which amounted to a cost of $19,475. In 2023, this cost was covered with funds from the American Recovery Plan Act, federal funding, and the Saline County Farm Bureau appreciates your willingness to see and understand the value of the free tire collection we host in Saline County with that financial support. The bid from Champlin Tire in 2025 is $220 per ton, which if we would collect 100 tons of tires would amount to $22,000 for the tires to be hauled away. The concern is that since the last free tire collection was held 2 years ago, there may be an excess of tires to be properly disposed of. Prior to 2023, the North Salina Community Development Group hosted a free tire collection in 22, spending a little over $15,000 to dispose of the tires they collected. In that same year, the Saline County Farm Bureau hosted a free tire collection to make up from not doing one in 2021 due to COVID, and we collected 115 tons of tires at a cost of $20,000. So in total in 22, there was $35,000 spent to collect tires so they were properly disposed of. If there are 2 years' worth of tires in Saline County that need to be collected from both within the city limits of Salina and outside the city limits, my hope is that we would not have to turn anyone away because we've run out of money to haul off their tires. I believe that between the grant received from the Earl Bain Foundation, Saline County, and the Saline County Farm Bureau, we can cover this cost. Now, there are systematic programs in place to properly dispose of tires throughout the county. According to Tilden Crable, the Salina Municipal Solid Waste Landfill Superintendent, practices are in place at the Salina landfill to divert used tires to be recycled. They contract with Resource Management Company out of Brunel, Kansas, and that cost is passed on to the residents. So an equipment tire can cost up to $221 to dispose of at the landfill, and that's without a rim, which is what we also expect is for tires to come in without a rim. But that cost, Crable finds, deters residents from properly disposing of used tires. According to Darren Fischel, Saline County Road and Bridge Director, county road and bridge employees also collect used tires at a cost to the county resident. That labor and time used in that process is within the county budget, and then there's the cost to properly dispose of the tires. He estimates that the labor and time nearly takes $5,000 each year. However, a lot of county residents don't take advantage of this program because of the cost. So then the county finds that they are spending money to pick up trash. And in 2024, they spent $12,870 just picking up trash, including used tires that are disposed of in culverts and ditches. Okay. I'm going to finish up real quick. The last piece to this is in August of 2021, the county and city began implementing a zero waste initiative. And this initiative has 8 strategies. A tire collection matches 4 of them. It provides waste prevention. It reuses materials. It also increases participation in an existing diversion program. And it is a strategy of obtaining waste and recycling program data. The Saline County Farm Bureau would be open to offering a free tire collection every year. And the North Salina Community Development Group has said that they would like to see a free tire collection every year and would be willing to partner with Farm Bureau to make that happen. My request today is for the Saline County Commissioners to consider contributing $10,000 towards the 2025 collection. But furthermore, I would encourage the commissioners to consider budgeting a line item towards this endeavor yearly to allow these 2 organizations to coordinate efforts that support the Zero Waste Initiative in a way that is needed by everyone in the county. Thank you for your consideration. I also have a handout with some of that data. If I can give that to Jamie and she could pass that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Seeing none, at this time we'll move into our consent agenda, which consists of approval of tax roll adjustments, approval of accounts payable, approval of public forum agenda, approval of payroll, approval of county commission meeting minutes of June 17th, approval of county commission meeting minutes of June 24th, and approval of agreement for hail damage repair for new sheriff's office and jail roof. Is there anyone to have any discussion or questions, or like to remove anything from the agenda?
Move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will move into the action items.
Ottawa road maintenance, minimum maintenance with control access with Darren Fishel, Road and Bridge Administrator.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Commissioners. This is, request for action is to adopt a resolution declaring a portion of Ottawa Road in the northwest portion of Saline County minimum maintenance controlled access facility. Adoption of the resolution will allow it to be placed on the Planning Board's agenda for a recommendation. The item will be on the Planning Board's agenda for the 26th of August. Public hearing and final passage of the resolution will be on September 9th of 2025 during the Saline County Commission meeting. Upon passage of the resolution, within 10 days, minimum maintenance signs will be placed at the locations. The property owners may install their gates for inspection at that time. The alternatives for action are to adopt the resolution or deny the request. Staff recommends adopting the resolution. The budget impact is the publications fees are $66.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will bring it back to a motion.
Public comment.
Public comments. Is there anyone there for public? Thank you. Excuse me. Seeing none, can I have a motion?
I'd move that we adopt Resolution 25-2430 as presented.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 25-2430 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item. Thank you.
Niles Road, minimum maintenance with control access with Darren Fishel, Road and Bridge Administrator.
Do another one. This request for action is to adopt a resolution declaring a portion of Niles Road in the southwest portion of the county minimum maintenance controlled access. Adoption of the resolution will allow it to be placed on the Planning Board's agenda for recommendation. The item will be on the Planning Board's agenda the 26th of August. Public hearing and final passage of the resolution will be on September 9th, 2025 during the Saline County Commission meeting. Upon passage of the resolution, within 10 days, minimum maintenance signs will be placed at the locations, and the property owners may install their gates for inspection. The alternatives for action are to adopt the resolution or deny the request. Staff recommends adopting the resolution. The budget impact is the publication fees are $66.
Okay. And just one quick question here, because I know, and you read it the way it's printed. It says southwest portion. Shouldn't that be the southeast portion of this?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure
Yes,
that we
you are correct.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions by the public?
I have one comment. I want to say how much I appreciate whoever YouTubed the flyover. That was quite handy.
Yes.
So
You bet.
thank you.
Very,
Yeah.
very helpful.
Okay.
You've set a precedent, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We
got it started.
We kind of expect
You know,
this now.
to be honest with you, I'm kind of muddling my way through this. The Planning and Zoning Commission used to do these, and they have a checklist of things and how these things are supposed to happen, and it's a little bit convoluted if you were to read it. And so the flyover will come as we do this. Will be at the initial request when I come forward to kind of settle those things out.
Well, it was appreciated. Thank you.
That works good. Thank you.
Anyway, any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adopt Resolution 25-2429 as presented.
Do I have
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve, adopt Resolution 25-2429 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Darren. Next item.
Bid award for Expo Center improvements with Hannah Bett, Deputy County Administrator.
Commissioners, this request is for Phase 5, which is the final phase that was established to accomplish the maintenance and improvement items that were a part of the lease agreement with the City of Saline for the Livestock and Expo Center. This particular phase will address new siding for Kenwood Hall, siding for 4-H, roof replacement for Ag Hall, tuck and pointing of the brick on Ag Hall, and then some concrete work in front of Kenwood Hall. Bids were opened on June 20th, and we received 2 bids. So this request for action is to award the bid to Hutton for the base price of $732,044, but also adding $4,950.44 for bid alternate 2, which would place a TPO on the roof of Ag Hall instead of just a foam insulated coating. It also requests to add $8,250 for 4-H's bid alternate 1, which will replace the garage overhead door. And this request also asks for permission for the Livestock and Expo Center Director to be authorized up to an additional $18,000 for an extra 240 bricks to be replaced if needed, with the tuck and pointing at $75 a brick, for a grand total of not to exceed $763,244.44. So your alternatives for action today are to award the bid to Hutton for a total not to exceed $763,244.44, or award the bid to the other bidder, Ponton Construction, with their bid totaling a not to exceed price of $888,236. Or option 3 would be to deny both bids and rebid. Staff recommends awarding the bid to Hutton with the 2 additional bid alternatives and the brick allowance. So the budget impact piece, $810,220 has been earmarked in the capital improvement fund for this last phase of required maintenance and improvement items to comply with the lease agreements with the City of Saline. This leaves just a little over $46,000 to cover project management services, and the remainder can be used for future projects for the Livestock and Expo Center or be reallocated to different projects at Commission direction. This particular last phase of work would be completed by the deadline set out in the lease agreement of December 31st of 2025. Subject to any of the questions, that is the request that is before you.
Well, I'm the newbie up here, so I do have I just want more clarification than questions. So as I understand, when Saline County took over this from the city, these were the lease agreement that these improvements, much needed, according to, would all be done in phases. So we knew when we signed the lease that the county was responsible for these. It's not new to come to us. Those aren't, and we really don't have a choice. We signed that lease in those agreements. So it's not like we can say no to these. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. Okay. And can you, and I know if you can't, I totally understand, do you have any idea, or can you give me an estimate of a total money the county has spent on all the phases to make these improvements?
I will have to get that number to you later, but we can definitely do that. So it was the county's, the county broke it down into phases, just from a budgetary standpoint, to make it easier, and from a scheduling standpoint of construction and all that kind of stuff. So that was the county's piece of it. It was the lease agreement with the city that outlined those maintenance and improvement items that had to be completed. Of course, there are some things, such as the roof on Ag Hall, that wasn't on the city's list. But in order to effectively and sustainably do tuck and pointing of the brick, you have to fix the roof that's leaking. Okay. And the roof is going to have to be addressed regardless. I think, did we find out, was it 1934 that the last time it was repaired?
87.
87, sorry. A long time ago. So, I mean, it's something that had to be done anyways. There's a lot of things too during this phased out project. We found some electrical issues in Barn 2 and we tackled that project. There's just stuff that we came across in this phased approach that we had to take care of at the same time.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
yeah.
Thanks.
But I will get you the final
I'm
number.
curious to know what the total cost was, just
Sure.
because I wasn't around when that lease was signed.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And remind me what the lease length is?
25 years. Or, sorry, 30, yeah.
And we're about in 5 years of it?
Yep.
So, okay.
Yep.
25.
25 more.
You're right. Any other comments or questions?
You know, Hannah, I know we're committed to this $763,000. I guess, and I may be chastised for this, but I want to bring it up. Do we have any idea, like, we'll just take last month. We had 21 days of stuff going on over at the Expo Center. Do we have any idea what the P&L is on that? I mean, what our profit and loss is? I mean, you know, we keep dumping money, and we keep dumping money into the deal, but it never seems like we're showing any. We're not getting anything back. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the Expo Center. The people over do a great job of what they do, but it's just like anything else. How long can we keep on? With stuff like this, and we keep dumping money into it, but getting no return out of it.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Operationally, the Expo Center loses about $400,000 a year. That does not include the cost of capital improvements. So think of it as sinking $500,000 plus every year into having a venue for these events.
Thank you.
And Hannah, I know we signed a lease. If the county doesn't meet the agreement of the lease, how is the lease written? And what's the back out of that? Does the city then take it over? Does it?
So I don't have the lease exactly in front of me to be able to fully answer that question. But I'm gonna take a good stab and say there's probably some consequences in that.
I would assume so. What are they?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I don't remember what the actual default provisions are for failure to perform the required improvements. That's a good question. I know once the improvements are done, we do have the option to back out of the lease going forward. But I don't know what the default provisions are if we fail to perform the required improvements. We could look that
Commissioner
up.
Weiss, what do you think, just having county councilor look at that and maybe just give us an update?
Yeah, my heart, I feel obligated to meet our agreement.
Right.
That's a gentleman's agreement. I'm looking down the road.
Same here.
So I was just wondering what that was. And
Yep.
Okay.
We could probably look that up and get it back to you by the end of the meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions by the commission? Anyone from the public have any questions or comments? I'll bring it back to the commission for more discussion or possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve RFA 2025-87 as presented.
second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve RFA 2025-87 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item.
Old jail demolition contract with Hannah Bett, Deputy County Administrator.
Good morning.
Good morning again, Commissioners. So a request for proposals was issued on May 12th for demolition of the 1995 portion of the former jail facility. The method for request for proposals was done over an invitation to bid because price is not the most important factor when evaluating a vendor to work with the county on a project of this magnitude. Things like professional services, experience, timing, competency, expertise, and reference checking also became guiding factors for recommending a contractor for this project as per the county's purchasing policy. A mandatory pre-bid walkthrough was held on May 19th, and proposals were due on June the 9th. A total of 7 proposals were received, and a team consisting of county staff and input from the city of Salina reviewed each proposal and evaluated the proposals on compliance with the requirements of the proposal submission. Reference checks were also completed on each vendor. So staff's review determined the top 3 contractors who scored the highest. Number 1 was Deal Enterprises from Salina, Kansas, with an average score of 82.333. Number 2 was Excel Dirt and Excavating from Salina, Kansas, with an average score of 82. Number 3 was G&G Dozer from Caney, Kansas, and the average score of 82. So today there's 4 alternatives for actions for you to consider. Number 1 would be to award a contract to Deal Enterprises for an amount not to exceed $400,000. Number 2, award the contract to Excel Dirt and Excavating for an amount not to exceed $409,000. Number 3, award a contract to G&G Dozer for an amount not to exceed $287,798. Or number 4, reject all proposals and direct staff to an alternative. Based on the factors outlined in the request for proposals, staff would recommend awarding a contract to the highest scoring contractor, which was Deal Enterprises, for an amount not to exceed $400,000. While the top 3 proposals were close in score, the proposal from Deal Enterprise scored the highest in the areas of evaluation on the ability to deliver the proposed scope of services in a timely manner, contractors' past experience on similar engagements, and the results of reference checks. For the budget impact, $1.2 million was earmarked in the capital improvement fund for this demolition project. This leaves sufficient funding to complete the demolition and have funds for some type of contingency just in case there are any unforeseen complications, but also have funds that can be returned to the CIP for future identified projects. So subject to any of the questions that you have or any additional information that you would like, that is the request that is before you today.
And I got 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one, and then the last one, I'll just before whatever we decide on the vote. But I mean, you said that there was the average score of 82.333, and then the other scores. 333 is not very much.
Right.
Is 333 worth $112,000 difference in what it's going to cost for demolition in that jail? I mean, that seems like a lot of money for such a little bit of a score.
So it is why there's 3 different or 2 other contractors that are on the request as options. Again, I stated that the proposal from Deal Enterprises scored the highest in the different areas of being able to deliver the proposed scope of services. And I think what really kind of set them apart was reference checks on the scoring piece.
Repeat that again. What set them apart?
Reference checks, sorry.
So the other 4 really had bad reference.
How did they score so high?
A couple of them did.
Okay.
Yeah. The ones that didn't make it on the list today.
That didn't make it on the list.
Correct, did not, yeah.
But the 3 we see here, I'm sorry, I'm butting into your conversation.
No, go ahead.
I agree. A .333 is a minuscule amount when you're talking that much money. If they had good reference, they scored well in the other, I don't see spending that extra money for .333.
I mean, like I said, that's $112,000 difference between the 2 bids.
Yeah, I mean, if you give me some more information to sway me, fine, but I'm not seeing it.
A quick question is that we've got these 3 here, but there was total 7. So the other 4, can I ask why? I mean, like on a lot of bids that we go out for, it's like it shows all the bidders, and here's the top one. I mean, it's like, but not to even see what the other 4 bids are or where they scored at is like, I'm going, I'd like to see all of them. And then, because here, we're having I know that you did your due diligence in finding these 3, you've made the phone calls and said, but it'd be kind of interesting to see where the other ones were even at.
So this was a request for proposals type. This was not an invitation to bid. Typically, with an invitation to bid, we will list out all of those. But there was so much more that went into this, such as reference checks, such as making sure that the contractor submitted everything that we asked for them to submit in their proposal. We did have some contractors that did not follow instructions appropriately, so obviously they scored lower.
Okay. Another quick question is that I look at this, and even to save $100 and some thousand, but it's like here, we're telling them right off the bat is that there are sufficient funds to complete demolition and have funds for contingency for any unforeseen complications. Have we looked at it? Have any of these contractors come to you and said, hey, here's what might be an issue and here's what might be a problem? But where we're telling them that whatever happens, we've got money here to take care of that. Instead of just going, hey, give us a proposal here, and they have to pretty much.
So a lot of that was fleshed out during the mandatory pre-proposal walkthrough. There were a lot of really good questions that were asked by the contractors, and contractors had an opportunity to submit questions, and which all received a written response, and all contractors got all of the questions and all. So there wasn't anything that really came about that tend to be an issue. Okay. I'm not foreseeing any issues, but again, I've never tore down a structure either, so I'd rather err on the side of caution and have something there just in case. But again, with the proposals that were received, the top 3 proposals have extensive experience and have done this far more times than I have.
So you've kind of been thrust into this position,
Yeah,
so I want to say thank you. And I think it's looking back, it was probably our mistake in not, when we, had the new jail built, something should have been put in place to transition us here. And so you've stepped up, and so I appreciate that very much.
I have learned a lot.
Well,
I was I'll echo, I appreciate everything you've done, and the difference between .33 or not. You followed the guidelines and did everything it does, and it sounds like you did a lot of work into this, so I do appreciate that. And calling references can't be timely. I know that's got to be dragging out, so much appreciation.
And my final question, I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but, I would be open to giving the chance for the party to take 60 days to see if they could obtain the finances and money and whatever it takes to go forward in their project that they're trying to do. If with that 60 days they do not perform, they do not come forward, they don't have anything in solid, anything solid, then we move forward. I don't really see 60 days really causing a big issue with this project. I mean, it's set there this long already. I mean, I don't see a 60-day problem would be a problem, but that was my recommendation that I would like to see. But like I said, we got 4 other commissioners. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
So, just so the commission is aware, the request for proposals, in the request, it's that the proposals have to remain valid for 60 days from the due date. So 60 days from June 9th is all we have to hold off on before we would have to go back out for proposals.
I personally find it frustrating that this is 3 years in the making. When we, over 2 years ago, when we started construction of the jail, or 3, we were then looking for alternatives. What do we do with the building? What do we do? And then at the 11th hour, when we finally decide to make a decision, something comes along that wants us to hold off on that. I wish this would have came up 2 years ago. It could have been resolved then. I applaud the action and the motivation to help people transform into a good, solid life. I believe that there are other facilities that could become available that could make that happen, but I don't see the jail being the one, and I hate to put this off any longer myself.
And Commissioner, I don't question whether this would work or whether there's a need. I just question the location. We all know that is one of our proposals for a health department building, and I don't want to, even for 60 days, actually it wouldn't be 60 days, it'd only be a little over a month, put off that as being an alternative. I just don't want to get us behind. I also understand the difference in the cost from 1 to 3 alternatives, but at this point, I trust the staff and what they've done, all the work that they've done in picking out a local contractor. So,
I want to say I would hate to go 60 days and then you have to do all the work over again. Right. That's ridiculous, and it's expensive and a lot of time. So that being said, I wasn't here 3 years ago, whenever, but I certainly watched from afar, and I did participate in lots of other people giving other opportunities for the jail. I know that there were some tours and other things were done, and that was given an opportunity, and it just wasn't feasible. Nobody picked it up. Known the Jarvises and appreciate everything they do in our community, and agree with Commissioner Weiss in that I would hope that they could find another location that might be a little bit better suited, but not the saying the jail wouldn't be suited. I have no idea, but I do understand everything you're saying and appreciate that, and with interest watching you and cheering you on, because that's my passion. But because we have Ready to Move, and because of all the work you've done, and because of all the time that's passed between beginning to now, and also the fact that we may need that site for a county purpose, I would rather not delay it.
Any other comments, questions by the commission? Anyone from the public would wish to speak?
Hello, Commissioners.
Hello.
My name's Staten Deal. I'm with Deal Enterprises, and that .33 might not mean a lot to you, but it means a whole lot to me in the work that I've done throughout the years in this community. And I'd like you to take into consideration my recommendations that have been presented to you guys. And I'd also like to state that I'm a local contractor, and all these proceeds will stay in our community. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Johnson with Excel Dirt and Excavating. Commissioner Hayes, I agree. As a steward with money, trying to figure out, making a choice, okay, save $112,000 or not. But on the flip side, Deal and myself both are county residents. We both do work in the county, with the county and with the city. And the tax dollars, this money that, we'll receive will stay in the county. It won't. I'm familiar with the other bidder. He's from Cheney, outside the county. So your monies that you're spending, they're going to go outside. They're not going to stay here locally. So that is something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll bring it back to the commission for possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion just to get something on the table, and I just want to explain it beforehand. I'm going to ask or make a motion to award it to Deals Alternative 1, and not necessarily because they're in Salina. I do think that's important that they're from Salina, but I also trust what the staff has gone through in ranking them in the highest score. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move we approve RFA 2025-88 as presented with Alternative 1.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve RFA 2025-88 as presented with alternate 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Thank you.
Hannah, thank you.
Next item.
Road and Bridge, May to June update with Darren Fishel, Road and Bridge Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is our road and bridge update. The interval is May through June of 2025. I'll turn it on. We did complete our spring Durapatch activities along with repairs to the senior center parking lot. Every fall and every spring we go through the county and Durapatch. Then we go over to the senior center and we see if we can, keep that parking lot together a little bit more. It's just keep the water out from underneath it. We did take delivery of some pickup trucks. These are trucks the commission approved for chassis only, where we took the service bodies off and placed them on new chassis. Saved a considerable amount of money. This is the superintendent's vehicle we took delivery of, and post-report the new Durapatcher that the commission approved did come in also. So they'll be ready to use this fall. We replaced or repaired or installed 27 different culverts. This is some of the condition of the culverts we find, either by engineering inspection. We inspect all 6,500 culverts on a rotating basis. They use it to fill in time, but not so much lately since they're needing a new engineer. It's just some of the conditions that we come across. This one here was a pipe that was extended years ago, and it's separated. Decades ago, the roads were narrow in Saline County, and so when the need came to widen them because of speeds, equipment got bigger, they took a pipe out there and they just put it on the end of the one they had. And over time, the ground shifts to the freeze and thaw, and it separates, and we end up having to replace those. There's a couple of pictures of just the new installation. This is on Pleasant Hill Road. This is down by Fallen, and this is just some of the typical repair. You see years and years of erosion filling the ditch where the water actually has to go down to get to the culvert, and so there's usually some ditch cleaning required with just about all culverts. We did have a lot of wet weather this spring, which is unusual for us. So in looking for things, maintenance activities, we went and cleaned off some bridge decks because over time the gravel gets drug out there by traffic and things like that, and we scrape them off and then we broom them. We did that to several bridges throughout the county. We did have a little bit of drift, through some of those events, nothing like what the city experienced down in the park, but we were able to go out and get that drift cleared out of there. This is typical. You get a heavy weather event, and you get the corn stalk and debris that gets flushed down in front of these culverts. This is a little box culvert we went and cleaned out, just kind of representative of the work we do that way. Oops. This is a double barrel box culvert on Lightville Road. You can see right here that it's just one barrel's completely full, almost non-functional with the second barrel. Years ago, we teamed up with Douglas Manufacturing to build something like this, and it goes on the front of our skid steer loader, and that's what we use to clean out those little boxes. They made it for us very inexpensively, and it works really well. This is some ditch cleaning up on Simpson Road, and this is in conjunction with engineering's project to replace a bridge up there and do some channel widening. So we do some of the things that we can do in-house to make those projects cheaper. Our traffic control repair to replace 242 signs, facilitated 5 road closures for various maintenance projects. The rural operators bladed 2,247 miles of road. That's every road you would see there, probably about 3 times over a 2-month period, and that's kind of what we would expect on a rotation for rural operators. About once every 2 weeks or a week and a half, a road will see a motor grader. We did sand 18 miles of roadway, and we hauled aggregates to 201 different locations utilizing 5,280 ton of road rock, 2,500 ton of sand, 1,600 ton of AB3, and 2,025 ton of dirt for various projects. Our plans are to continue the scheduled culvert repairs. We do have a road rebuild project we're going to start, and the budget 2026 budget process is just about all wrapped up. So, and our budget usage is within historical averages. We're not high or low either way there. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Recommended budget for 2026 with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So today I get to present to you our County Administrator's recommended budget for next fiscal year, which starts January 1 of 2026. This process, of course, started a few months ago. We reviewed financial indicators. Departments submitted their requests. You had a study session, reviewed many of those departmental requests, and then we got the final June estimated assessed value figures and revenue neutral rate calculations from the clerk's office. I've put all that together in an attempt to balance all of those. I will say the 2026 budget I'm going to describe as unpleasant. It's not the worst budget I've ever presented in my career. I'm not laying off people, which I have done in the past, but it is certainly not a budget that funds all the things that we wish it funded. To that effect, I have given copies of this in advance to all of the department heads, and they have an opportunity to appeal my recommendations to the 5 of you. 2 departments so far have notified me that they plan to appeal. The others have until this Thursday to let me know if they wish to as well. This year, because of the nature of the budget, I'd like to go through it a little more extensively than we have in the past. Just give you all an opportunity to ask questions and get a little bit of my thought process here. So I'll just start plowing through it. First off, we'll start with sort of the marquee, which is the budget in front of you. At the end of the day, proposes to raise the tax rate in Saline County by 1.459 mils for next year. And that is not a recommendation that I make lightly. I know nobody likes increased taxes, myself included. I'm a taxpayer in this community as well. But the tax rate in the county is really a math problem. It's based on what other revenues we have coming in, what cash carryover balances we have, and what expenses we face. And so that's where we are. So on the revenue side, the first thing that calculation takes into account is other revenues. And so in the general fund, our revenue, non-property tax revenues for 26 are estimated to be $1 million higher than they were for 25. So it's not like we looked to property tax first. We've scraped the other revenues to start with. Now, I will say it's really a $280,000 base revenue increase, and then I am proposing to transfer back from the CIP $729,000 into the general fund. That's equivalent to $1 million. The reason I feel comfortable in doing that is our CIP balance is very healthy at the current time, and as the commission just went through, we had an amount that, based on an architect estimate, we thought it was going to take about $1.2 million to take down an old jail, and it ended up taking about $400,000. So that's a savings, and I've identified transferring that savings, or the bulk of it, back into the general fund to drive down the need for tax increase for next year. So just going to march through general fund. The general courthouse budget is up by about $360,000, but the requests were about $800,000 higher than the current year. We've scaled that back using a number of different things. Our building authority share dropped a little bit. I've funded less than half of what's been requested for the TIP, our Technology Improvement Program. I've also limited the computer maintenance growth. I've challenged our IT director to find some savings in that area. I've not recommended the increase in separation pay that is fully justified based on several years of historicals, but we don't have the money to budget for it. On the other hand, we got notified. I didn't included an increase in insurance on property. Tried to bring that up to the level we actually spent this year. And then we got a letter from K-Camp that said, oh, by the way, plan on a 15% increase for next year. And so we said, wow, that seems like a lot. So we checked with Iron Insurance about what they were seeing in the market, and they said, yeah, between 10 and 20% is about average for where property insurance is going. So this budget, I will just state up front, this budget underfunds our property insurance for next year. The commissioner's budget is largely unchanged. It's slightly slightly smaller than for the current fiscal year. You dropped a little bit out of your travel expense, but it's recommended at the level of your request. The county attorney's budget, again, the major difference there is just the requested dollar figures include a 4% raise for staff. The recommendation is for a 3% general cost increase for staff. The only other thing there was a little bit of change in his trial expense, a little reduction there. The county clerk's office, the only thing that really changed there was the staff numbers, the 4% to 3%. Same with Register of Deeds office. In the sheriff's office, the sheriff requested additional funding for overtime, both in patrol and in corrections. And that recommendation is justified based on actual expenses and what we've seen over the last couple of years, and the fact that we're paying people increased salaries each year. But I could not recommend the level of increase that he requested. So what I did was I took a 5-year average and recommended at that level for both patrol and for corrections. That reduces a total of close to $100,000 off of his request. He will probably end up spending more than that, just the reality. He also made 2 other requests, again, justifiably so. For corrections, he requested a substantial increase of $155,000 in inmate medical. That's based on the new contract that he has. I feel like we don't really have a choice there, so I fully funded that one. He also requested a $165,000 increase in utilities. Again, his utility budget was based on the old facility. The new facility is more efficient, but it's also much larger square footage. I didn't just take him at his word. We actually looked into this, went back and examined the bills from last year. About $15,000 of what he spent last year was actually on the old building. There was that transition period where he was paying utilities on 2 places. And then we also had a company that has been analyzing our utility bills go through and do a projection. And they project that he will actually be spending about $146,000 a year more than we have him budgeted for, rather than $165,000. So I went with that figure, $446,000 rather than the request of $465,000.
Do you mind if we ask questions while we're going?
Absolutely.
Is that all right? Okay. So if I'm looking at this, 2020 we spent $7.6 million on the jail, right? And now we're that's about when the vote happened for the new jail. Can anybody remember when that vote was?
November exactly? Of 2020.
So in 2020, and it was going to save us all this money, and now we're up to 13.6. Is that correct? And that doesn't include the cost of the construction.
13.6 is the total sheriff's budget. That includes both corrections and patrol.
Right. That does not include the building, though, the new jail.
Does not include the debt service,
so
correct.
We've gone from 7.6 to 13 just since the vote. Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, and I will, and so things that have gone into that have included substantial increase in staffing.
Sure, yeah.
And not only a substantial increase in the numbers of staffing, but also in the pay rate.
Sure.
You all remember that we struggled post-pandemic with recruitments in a lot of areas, but particularly in recruitments for law enforcement. And so as a consequence, there were several times where this commission voted to increase salaries.
And I've been part of that vote every time, and I voted yes. And that's not my point. I guess I just remember that we were going to save $1 million a year not housing people outside of the county. And
well, and that
was never ever
$1 million a year did go away, but it got absorbed and then some.
Right.
Yeah. The treasurer's office, the only difference there was the staff, 4 to 3. The county administrator's office. So I will say the existing divisions in the county administrator's office did all save 2% on non-personnel expenses. That's what the commission requested, as did many of the other departments. I didn't mention that for treasurer, register of deeds, clerk, but they all did that as well. However, there are a couple of expenses in our office that sort of go the opposite direction. One of which is the department head salary. I put more than a 4% increase in there for that. Just to give you all flexibility to replace me at a market rate. So, need you to know that that is in there. And then the other thing is the public information office, which has been in the health department, is proposed to move into the county administrator's office going forward. You may recall that was funded largely from a federal COVID recovery grant at the time. And we always knew that that would sort of trickle out at some point. There was a thought that maybe some of that could be absorbed in emergency management. Their grants have gone the other way because of various actions at the federal level as well. I did, however, in an attempt to partially offset that cost increase, which is about a $92,000 cost increase, I did include a $15,000 new revenue for our office as a transfer from opioid funds, so that the PIO would be responsible for doing opioid education activities and also managing grant programs from the opioid funding. The one thing that was requested in our office but is not funded is a contract with the city of Salina for a potential grant writer. The coroner's office did not increase. You know, the budget there is a function of the number of unattended deaths in the community in any given year. We are, as of right now, knock on wood, having a fairly good year in 2025 compared to what we've experienced in the past, so felt somewhat comfortable in leaving that the same. The courts did increase largely for legal services for their outside counsel, but shaved off a little bit from what they requested in trial expense and created a new line for mediation. We discussed that in your study session with both courts and county attorney. Then the pretrial program, we believe there's really nothing new on the expense side. There is a new revenue in the amount of $15,000. We believe Ottawa County is going to play again. They did, and then they didn't. We think they're back on for 26 for funding a portion of one officer. Emergency management, largely the same. The only difference there is the 4 to 3 on the staff salaries. Planning and zoning, same thing there. Difference being the 4 to 3. Drug court, same. Juvenile center. So our representative on that board fought very hard for us and reduced their budget request by a total of $50,000, which was about a $20,000, just slightly over a $20,000 savings to Saline County. So was able to bring that down a little bit. Appropriations. The lease payment for the PBC, that is what it is. The equipment improvement program requested to fund the 3 sheriff's vehicles. Recommended funding only 1 of the 2 courtrooms for audiovisual. We did 1 this year. There's no reason to do 2 next year when we're in a money crunch. $5,000 for new court desks and $9,000 for the refurbishment of the trailer for emergency management, but not recommending replacement of the truck for emergency management. Michelle said she knew that was sort of a long shot when she submitted it, so we did not recommend that. The appropriations for animal control for North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging and for the Salina Recycling Center are, those just are what they are. They're, the one for animal control is locked in an interlocal agreement with the city. The Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging, that really supports their request for federal funding, and it's less than $1,000 increase. And then the Salina Recycling Center, the flat $10,000 that you all have approved in the past. So that can certainly be something else if you wish it to be. You heard a request today, I think, for a $10,000 ongoing appropriation to Farm Bureau. You could recycle tires instead of recycling everything else if you wished to do so, but that's the recommendation there. Then Salina Grace, we have been funding them at a $15,000 level the last couple of years. I, just in view of the overall financial situation, I cut that back by 5% in my recommendation for next year. United Way requested $40,000 for childcare. It's not that I like homeless individuals more than childcare providers. It's just that's a new request, and so did not recommend any funding for that one.
Can I add something to that, Phil, please?
Sure.
In looking at the budget, and I think we go back looking at some of the stuff that we funded. Like I said, number one, I know we need to take care of ourselves. Take care of the county before we do any allocations or anything, and I think we all agree with that. But I keep going back and looking at the allocations that, okay, OCCK we give a substantial amount to. The city gives them a substantial amount too. If you look at that, that's $1.1 million in monies that is given to OCCK a year. Salina Grace, you know, we look at $15,000, and then we look at what the city ends up giving. You know, it goes back to this double dipping.
Same taxpayer. Yeah.
And the same taxpayer. That if you're a city or county, if we give OCCK $250,000 or whatever we give them, and the city gives them $1 million or whatever, it's still the same taxpayer. That's why I have a problem of not being able to, you know, fund the United Way child care part.
Commissioner, when we get to OCCK, I'm recommending cutting them by 5%, just like I did with Salina Grace. My recommendations, like I just said, I'm taking what you all have approved in the past, and I'm not adding anything new to it. That's my recommendation. You get to take it from here. And if you want to cut OCCK more or Salina Grace more and give that to United Way for childcare, that's a decision for the 5 of you. I'm just sharing with you my rationale.
And I understand that. I appreciate
these
that.
These are the things you've approved before.
There.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, make everybody aware again. Is like I said, it all goes back. It's the same taxpayer, and I just don't agree with double dipping. And we fund these outside agencies a lot of money, but there's some of these outside agencies that. And, I'm not saying that OCCK don't do good. I'm not saying that Salina Grace, there's a lot of good happenings in that. But, like I said, it just gets back to some of them, like the child care part is something that I don't think that we can turn a blind eye to. I'm not saying it, but I'll take that in to what you just said.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
there's 4 other people to...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so then behavioral health court, that amount actually goes down a little bit because we divided that over 4 years instead of 3 as originally anticipated. The transfer to debt service, that I was able to reduce a little bit just because there's a balance there. And then Jamie requested again, as she does almost every year, to bank $50,000 for election equipment to equipment reserve. And once again, I did not recommend funding that in the budget, but hopeful that we will be able to with end of the year transfers. Facility planning and maintenance, that amount goes down substantially, a decrease of almost $80,000 from this year based upon eliminating a couple of facilities. So one of those, of course, was 203 North 10th. We eliminated the cost of the building rental on that. And then the other one you approved today, demolishing the jail, so $50,000 in utility costs for that facility goes bye-bye. EMS, unfortunately, went the other direction. So this year, we did not fund the purchase of an ambulance. That was a deal we struck with the city of Salina when they added one last year, and we did that through ARPA funding. So they said, okay, well, if you're paying to add one, you can skip a year. So we did that in 25. We knew that expense would come back for 26. Unfortunately, it came back higher than in the past because the cost of ambulances is going up. So that is a $303,000 increase there. I will say the city also approached me about increasing the base amount, but I pushed back on their justification and have not included that. The appraiser's office, same deal. Their difference is just that staffing amount. Soil conservation, I did not recommend their requested increase. Expo Center, they took their 2% cut in non-personnel, and then the difference there is just their personnel. Mental health is zeroed out in the general fund because my recommendation, based on actually an idea from Commissioner Shadwick, give credit where credit is due, is to move that to a new fund. And so if the commission likes that approach, I'll need to bring back a resolution to establish that. Jamie has to get that all entered into CIC, et cetera. But that's my recommendation, that if we just fund that at $500,000 a year, that would allow for some natural growth for them, and we wouldn't have to be having these conversations every year. And then OCCK, as I said, I am recommending a 5% reduction in their allocation. Election. And I'm sorry, I should back up to HR. I should mention I did not recommend funding an additional payroll position. The reason I just thought of that is because election, I also did not recommend funding a position. So 2026 is an even-numbered year. Even-numbered years, you by definition have at least 2 elections. Odd-numbered years, you sometimes are able to skip a primary. Odd-numbered years, you have fewer districts. Just takes less money. So for next year, we knew there was going to be an increase. So, Jamie requested more money. Her request was entirely reasonable. I trimmed off a few places. But the major difference is I did not recommend the position that she requested. I think that she's...
just ask, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
You didn't recommend any new positions.
That
is
is correct.
I just want to make
that's
sure.
what I was just going to say, Commissioner.
Well, you and I think alike.
Yes. So I didn't recommend her position, not because I think it's a bad idea. I think she is perfectly justified in having an election security person. But 2026 ain't the year to do it. I mean, we're already looking at all of these other things and still a $1.5 million increase. So, economic development, Equifest going away really saved us here because I was able to reduce the overall economic development budget by 5% without actually hurting anyone, actually giving a 3% increase to Skeeto. They asked for a massive increase to try and bring us in line with some equity that they've never really been able to justify in any meaningful way. But I'm like, okay, fine, you can have 3%. Senior services, Rosie projects quite a bit of new revenue, so that was good. She also asked for an increase. She asked for a position, and she asked for an increase for her contracted food service. I did not recommend the position, again, not because it's not warranted, but because I didn't recommend any positions. And I also cut $50,000 out of her request for food service, and that's really looking at the new vendor and where we are after the first few months of that new vendor. I just simply think she can live without it. Even with all of that, there is an increase of about $1.8 million in the general fund for next year. Road and Bridge, Most of their lines are unchanged. The ones I will note, their capital outlay for this year, we did not fund their equipment improvement program. We said, you have a substantial balance in your special equipment fund, take it out of there, draw that down. So that's what we did for 25. So we knew funding was coming back for 26. I did recommend that they not get the plow with their dump truck, and that saves us a little bit of money, but mostly recommended that. Where I made it up in Road and Bridge was recommending underfunding contractual asphalt by $1 million. And the idea there being special highway also has a substantial balance. So we took money out of special equipment this year, reduced that. Next year, I would propose that we take money out of special highway and reduce that. Again, these are not long-term sustainable solutions, but this is what gets us to where we are for 26. And with that change, the Road and Bridge budget actually reduces by slightly more than $100,000. Noxious weed fund is virtually flat. It goes up by $1,700 for next year, and that fully funds their staff. Mental health fund is a brand new fund, so recommend $500,000 appropriation there, and then in the future that would change. Noxious weed capital outlay I'll skip over because that's just we just budget the balance in the capital outlay funds. Employee benefits fund. So it's not a huge increase overall. It's an increase of about 150,000. The biggest expense in that fund is for employee health insurance. It already reduced that a little bit based on where we were from request to recommended, but now it appears we're going to be able to reduce that even more. I'm still waiting on some final numbers from Maryland on that one, but hopefully that comes down a little bit before the final budget. Special alcohol and drug and special parks and rec, both I'm recommending decreased expenditures in both of those just based on fund balance carryovers. Those are funded completely from liquor tax, so there's no impact to the mill levy there. Health department, this year, the health department really didn't request anything new. They are still dealing with the wind down of all of the increased funding they got for about a 5-year period, federal money that flowed through the state. So they're pretty much status quo. As I said, we did take the public information out of them and put it into the general fund. But the major difference there was a potential lease payment for a new building. So I budgeted an amount. I ended up recommending $163,000 for that, being basically if we were to borrow $6 million for a 20-year term, wrap around the other existing payment that we have at a 3.5% interest rate, and make one of two payments next year. That's what that would equate to. All of those assumptions, of course, could change, but feel like it's responsible to budget something for that purpose, since we are in the process of doing something for the health department. And then bond and interest fund, opioid fund, bond and interest fund just sort of is what it is, and that's all covered by either the fire districts or the jail sales tax. Opioid settlement, there is a little bit more to that budget than there used to be, just from the standpoint of we're actually starting to roll out programs in that area now. Special road construction has traditionally been our $1 million fund. This year, we reduced that to $500,000. And for next year, that $500,000 that we would have restored went somewhere else, and so it's still at $500,000 for 26.
Excuse me, when you say it went somewhere else, we're still going to collect a mill, but only allot a $500,000 to special roads? Is that what you're saying? Or are we
our total mill levy is still going up, but we're only collecting $500,000 for special roads. Yeah. That's what I meant by went somewhere else. Special bridge construction, that is at 2 mills. Jail sales tax fund is what it is, and then we've got the capital improvement funds. As I said, we just budget the balance in each of those. The only difference there being in the county capital improvement fund, there is a proposed fund transfer back to the general fund of $729,000. And then we have the special district funds, and I won't go through them extensively, but I will just say the fire districts, District 1, no increase there. District 2, a pretty minor overall increase. District 3 had, I think, what's probably the most substantial increase. That's related to them upping their expenses to make the payment on the Brookville station, which will finally come to fruition next year. District 4, that's just the money we collect and remit to the city. They did request a little bit more there, but it kind of varies each year. District 5 did have an increase of about $15,000. District 6, they stayed flat, and District 7 went up just a tiny bit, about $2,000. So with that is sort of the rundown of the county administrator's recommended budget for 2026. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, and then we'll be back again in 2 weeks when I'll ask you whether you want to exceed the revenue neutral rate. If you wish not to exceed the revenue neutral rate, we will need to come up with an additional $1,858,000 in cuts from somewhere.
That's a lot to digest, but thank you.
Will you repeat what you just said? I'm sorry.
No, I think it's important to hear it again.
Yeah.
If you wish to not exceed the revenue neutral rate, we would need to reduce an additional $1,858,000 from the budget.
Thank you.
At what point this is your recommended budget. At
Correct.
what point do we give you our input of changes we'd like to see to this recommended budget?
So that process will start in 2 weeks. So obviously, if you decide you don't want to exceed the revenue neutral rate, that will be substantial input. Then we anticipate in early August coming back. Usually you finalize things and then publish it, but this year we're not going to look at adopting the budget until September 9th. So you have a couple meetings in early August where we can fiddle around with numbers.
And I just want to say that I want to make sure, we asked all departments to look at a 2% decrease when they submitted their original budgets.
Yes.
A majority of those did that, but
Yes.
some did not.
Yes. I will say I think everybody tried. The sheriff's office obviously did not reduce by 2% because he had justified reasons for needing increases, right? He did reduce other line items. I'll give him credit for that. Emergency management.
Wow.
Michelle didn't take 2%. She said, listen, it depends on whether we have an emergency or not, right? And so, but yeah, I would say the majority of the departments absolutely did.
So our own county departments already stepped up and took less, or proposed less.
Yeah.
They need positions, but at this point, our county administrator's not recommending any new positions based on this dreadful budget. I can't remember the good word you used, but I'm going to use dreadful.
I said unpleasant. But
Unpleasant.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to stick with dreadful. I like that better. Okay. But I guess I'm just trying to make a statement that here we are in the world of dreadful for Annie, and our own county departments are taking reductions, but also not even getting those staff. And I heard you say on several of them, justified staff need them, but we're not recommending it. So that's just my statement. I wasn't looking for an answer from you, but thank you. And thank you, as we thanked Hannah, for all the work you put in. I can't imagine. I'm exhausted already, and I've gone through this a couple of times because you gave it to us, but just doing that and listening to the requests and the needs out there, and this is amazing work, and I applaud you. So thank you.
And I want to add to that too. You as a staff and putting this stuff together, I really commend you. I mean, I don't see how you stand there, sit there with all those numbers in your head, and come up with what you come up with, and everything like that. But I would like the public to also know that, just like Annie said, our departments have looked at taking decreases, and we're doing our best to keep the budget as low as possible and not have to increase anything. And, that's what we were elected to do. And so, hopefully we can curtail as much of it as we can and, make it as less painful as possible. So again, thank you guys for all you guys do.
It's hard for you to do this because, as we've found out, there's 36% of the property in our community doesn't pay property taxes, which is 5th highest in the state, and that really constricts what we can do. And I would challenge my other commissioners to. I think we need to look at the outside agencies that aren't paying property taxes. They're already getting a break. My understanding with OCCK is they have 8 to 10 properties that are not directly owned by them, but subsidiaries that aren't paying taxes. So they are already getting money from us. And
I appreciate the hard work that went into this. I know it's difficult to juggle all of this around, and try to please the five-headed monster at the same time being fiscally responsible. The thing that worries me is that we're the unsustainable expenses of taking the monies from other places and using them to put a patch on this now. We all know that's going to catch up with us, and that concerns me the most.
Yeah, there are at least 3 what I would call gimmicks embedded in this budget that will need to be rectified in future years.
One of the things I just want to the public is just in your information you just provided, that, and I apologize because I was not aware of where the state again takes away something and delivers it. Hey, you, Mr. County, you got to take care of this. And where they took away, eliminated 1.5 mils from the state's portion of the property tax this year. I mean, and there again, it's like if we're raising it by 1.5 mil, that and the state took that away, we're probably much just replacing what they took away. I mean, is that what
in terms of
funding
impact to residents? Yes. I mean, what they took away was they shifted the way that they maintain state properties. They shifted that to income tax rather than property tax, but so it's not that they passed something down to us that we have to now
to get
budget
funding for.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Because the way I was reading that, going, how is that really? Okay. Thank you.
Can you just in a bullet point for me so I can write this down? What outside agencies have asked for money? So we've got. I like what you've done with the mental health, by the way. I'd forgotten that was a suggestion of mine, but thank you.
You got to take credit.
I know. Brilliant. Yeah, I know. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You are brilliant, but whatever.
Okay, so outside agencies would include. So I don't know if you want to consider animal control an outside agency, but then we would have North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging, Salina Recycling Center, Salina Grace Foundation, United Way, and then we would have the Saline County Soil Conservation District, Central Kansas Mental Health, OCCK. Seems like I'm forgetting. Oh, and then the economic development agencies, yeah. So the Chamber, SKIDO, Military Affairs.
And OCCK gets $1 million from the city for transportation, a little over $1 million.
I believe, just from, I've not looked at the city's budget, but I believe from casual conversation with the interim city manager that they did request some more money this year, and I think it was in that neighborhood.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of our appraiser? Yes. Of our appraiser that just walked in. Can I ask a question, Sean, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Is
sure.
that okay?
Yes.
I'm sorry you didn't say okay.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, sure. Not a problem.
There's been a discrepancy on how many properties OCCK owns and what property taxes they have. They officially own 2, right?
I believe that's correct.
And they're subsidiaries or?
There's also an AFK LLC, which owns a lot of the properties that OCCK operates out of. I think the total between those 2 entities is 15 properties.
Do they pay property taxes?
The majority of them do not. There are, I believe, 3 of those properties that they have filed for an exemption in recent years, and kind of a quirky little thing with the Board of Tax Appeals. They do pay taxes on, I believe, 3 out of those 15 total.
I just like that to sink into my fellow employees. I mean, my fellow commissioners.
Your employees. Can we get that in writing?
Yeah, no. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, so say again, too, how many, oh, I'm sorry. Do I have to ask?
Yes.
Okay. Say again what you said. How many buildings do we have that are tax exempt?
I just said 36%.
36%.
Which is the 5th highest in the state.
Which is 5th highest, which means that we're not getting that revenue from that.
So a lot of these outside agencies are already getting they're already getting
Tax
public
reduction.
assistance by no property taxes.
36%.
I'd like to remark that a few years ago when the ARPA money came in, and we put a lot of work into, and Philip Smith Haynes put a ton of work into how do we dole this money out. My concern at that time, and I voiced it a couple times, is that this ARPA money is a one-time thing. Excuse me, I did not want our county commission to be saddled with an ongoing expense that was unfunded. And I know that there's a couple items in this budget that first originated with ARPA funds, and that kind of rears that ugly head of ARPA money is now a county cost. So I know that Grace, Saline Grace was one that I think we put security system in their building for them. And they've come back to the table, and we've funded them again and again. I know we gave a lot of money to United Way for the daycare, and with ARPA funds, and now they have a need, and it's a true need, but we don't have the funds to continue on like we did with the ARPA. So I want the public to understand ARPA's gone, and we just don't have that kind of money.
Well, I think a lot of my contemplation over the next 2 weeks is going to be on that discretionary funds. I just don't think we can continue to do it. Not with the $1.8 million potential increase of essential services. A lot of those agencies aren't paying property taxes right now. I mean, they're already being funded by the taxpayers in some way. So 2 weeks.
The July 15th. We'll start those discussions.
Yes.
Any other? We have announcements. Commission comments? Oh, hey, sorry, took your go juice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You do it much better than I do. So commissioners' comments.
I don't have any.
Yeah, I just got one thing, Commissioner comments. You know, I do want to thank the public for coming to our meetings in the morning, the ones that do come and take the time to come up and say something. I mean, without the people coming in and letting us know how they feel and what, I mean, we're a different breed. We don't see, like the city commission might see, a full room unless we got something really pressing. We never see that. So I want to thank the public that do take the time to come in on a 9 o'clock meeting. I know it's kind of rough sometimes, but you know, to come in and voice their opinion or voice their concerns and let us know, and to let them know they're welcome anytime. Anytime we have a commission meeting, they're welcome to come to the Citizens Forum and let us know how they feel and what we can do.
And I want to thank the Jarvis. I mean, that information you brought forth today was very informative, and we do look at it and say, what are we going to do down the road? I mean, it is you've brought another new light to the issue and do that. Same way with United Way. I mean, we sat here, and for years, that is one of the biggest things is child care. Whether the county does get into the child care programs or somebody else, it's like what little bit of monies that you're asking now compared to what the ARPA funds did. And I think it was a great deal to get it going, and the ARPA did get things going. I agree with Commissioner Weiss. It's like the fund, that funds is gone now. What do we do? But I still look at it. It's going. That is one of those situations where it's like very well needed. I mean, it's like it's another issue. It's like we got to have. And thank you all for coming today and presenting your proposals. Yes. Any announcements? Oh, excuse me. Next item.
Announcements.
I'll just announce that Friday is Independence Day, and county offices will be closed, will not be open, and that there is not a scheduled county commission meeting next Tuesday on July 8th. So we will return in 2 weeks on July 15th.
Okay. All right.
We adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.